This and this. Now we can film. Hi guys, Matthew here and welcome back again to my channel. MSI's gaming series is probably one of their most famous sub-brand related to graphics card, together with their twin Frozer cooler design, which is now in its 7th generation. Oh my, it's been that long. Man, I'm old. That same series comes in few different variants. I usually get to check out gaming or gaming X models, but today I have with me here the most equipped and the highest factory overclock model for this series, MSI RTX 2060 Gaming Z model. It's really heavy. Since I already reviewed few of their latest generation cards based on this exact cooler design, I'll put a link to one of them in the right top corner of this video if you want to check it out. I can again confirm that I'm still very much liking this dark gray and black design of the outer shroud. It airs decent build quality, although it's completely made out of plastic, and it's rounded up with few RGB LED lines on the edges of that gray part of the shroud, which makes the graphics card pop ever so subtly and before all, in my opinion, tastefully. As soon as I've took the card in my hands, I've noticed how it's really heavy compared to other models based on the same twin Frozer 7 design, especially considering its size. We have a massive and before all tall and wide cooling solution, which is dominated by a big aluminum heatsink separated into two thin stacks, which carry a total of 4 nickel-plated copper heat pipes, and those run through a big, also nickel-plated copper GPU contact plate. The cooling for the VRMs and 6GB of GDDR6 VRAM memory is done using two separate aluminum heatsink plates, which dissipate the heat from the components using thermal pads and with the help of two 85mm Torx 3.0 fans blowing over them. Once you put that plastic shroud and everything else on the card, it turns into a triple slot monster that weighs in at around 970 grams, which is a lot, especially for a visually short card like this one. A part of the blame falls onto this very minimalistic and cool looking what seems to be an aluminum backplate with brushed finish. Being a card that comes with a twin Frozer cooler design, those same fans of course feature 0 RPM, we are not working when the card is not under load fan mode, or to be precise when the GPU temperature is under 60 degrees Celsius, so as you can see it here, the idle temperature is a bit higher compared to a card that has permanently active fans, but this can vary depending on your chassis fan setup. Last but not the least, on the connector side of things, we have a pretty usual array of video outputs with 3 display ports and 1 HDMI, while for powering this card up you'll need to use one 8-pin PCI Express power connector, which makes it a bit practical and clean looking, as you don't have to think about those extra 2 pins dangling around. You know what, when I think about it, although this card has an 8-pin PCI Express power connector because it actually needs it, maybe vendors could always use an 8-pin PCI Express power connector even if the card requires only 6. The other 2 can just be blanks, not connected to anything, just so we don't have to deal with this. Anyway, let's check out the performance of this card, and if you're really planning to buy it and have some questions and concerns about it, feel free to ask me in the comment section down below. Also, if you're stuck between deciding to buy an RTX 2060 series card or investing some extra money toward an RTX 2060 Super series, be sure to check out my side-by-side comparison of these two series. I will put a link to that in the right top corner of this video. Being a mid-range card in Nvidia's current ongoing generation, the RTX 2060 with its performance output brings in more than reasonable FPS figures considering its price bracket. I will not comment that too much since we are all pretty familiar with its general performance. I can say that it's mostly aimed towards 1440p gamers, but it will serve an even better purpose for those users who are planning to use it with their 1080p high refresh rate monitor setup, as it can easily reach over 100 FPS in latest titles, especially if you fiddle around with graphical settings a bit. For some reason, MSI decided not to make a Gaming X version for the RTX 2060 series, just this and the regular gaming model, which GPU boost clock is 1680 MHz, while the Gaming Z has a much higher figure of 1830 MHz, which is why it has a higher price tag than it, and compared to other series in their lineup besides the gaming one, next to also having a more beefier cooler than them. This in the end resulted in a pretty steady 1935 MHz in games and benchmarks for the RTX 2060 Gaming Z model, but of course you can go even further than that with some manual overclocking, and in my case using these settings shown here, plus 80 MHz on the GPU, which then turned to be just a bit over 2 GHz under load, and plus 1100 MHz on the video memory, resulted in between 5 to 10% of additional performance gain. As for the GPU load temperatures, I was seeing mostly around 60 degrees Celsius across all of my testing, with the fan speed usually being around 1100 RPM, that's for the first fan, and 1600 RPM for the second, which was in the end barely audible on an open testbed. Here's a short sound clip of the card under load, while also showing you the sound meter for measurement comparison. Although you probably saw this in my comparison of it and the RTX 2060 Super model between the idle, which was around 50 watts for this system, and the full load of only the GPU, I saw it pulling roughly around 220 watts. There's no doubt that MSI made a really tricked out model, but the question that presents itself is if it's really worth that extra money, or should you maybe go with something like their Armor series or even the regular gaming model, since you know that you're going to get a decent cooling solution either way. Well, you can always bump up the GPU frequencies by doing some manual overclocking, and by doing all of that you will save some money along the way. That's it for this time from me. Thank you once again for watching. Toss me a thumbs up if you enjoyed my video, that really helps a lot. And if you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe, and if you already are, be sure to press that notification bell down below so you don't miss out on a new video. And until then, catch you later guys.